Right, this is a video for anyone attempting the glow plug change on their T4 1.9 TD. First of all, you need to put the van into service mode. That involves pulling this section forward. There's a handle there. So once you've undone the screws, the 2 bolts, and there's a few screws in the corners, there, that's holding your grill in place. So unscrew your grill, then unbolt this, pull it forward, lift and pull towards you, and everything will sort of stretch out and you're now in service mode. Next, the horrible part, your glow plugs are down there. See that shiny nut with the rail running across? They're all your glow plugs, and there's one down there behind that plug there. That actually has a plug on it, so pull that off because you need to get good access. Okay, so I wasn't too sure what I'd need for this, so I got a variety of tools out, and I thought I was going to be absolutely golden doing it with this guy, because that is like a glow plug tool. It's got the 8mm head one end. That's for getting your little nut off the end of your glow plug that screws onto there. So that's the first thing you've got to do. You've got to undo that, and then you undo the glow plug. So that would get that off, and this end is fat enough. That's 12mm. That will go over the glow plug and unwind it. Unfortunately, if you actually look at the shape of that, it just isn't the right shape. It's such a small space to get into. None of my big spanners would really do it, so in the end I had to use this little guy, this little 8mm, to kind of, okay, I've got an 8 and a 12. I needed to use the little 8 to get the nuts off the glow plugs. It's very fiddly. Whilst you're undoing them, get a telescopic magnet, hold that magnet against the end of the glow plug, so that when you're unwinding the nut, as it pops off, it will stick to this, otherwise it's going to get stuck under your engine somewhere. Once the nut comes off the glow plug, lift it away and bring it out and put it somewhere safe. Okay, once you've done that, you can move on to actually doing the rest. So first of all, you're just doing these 8mm nuts. Once they're all off, pull the rail away, drop the rail under the glow plugs. Then you need to get, this is what I've used, this is a Silverline 12mm spanner with a ratchet on the end. So this will save you so much time, because obviously it turns and then you can pull. Sorry if I'm making this a bit too basic, but some people haven't got a clue, and I'm one of them. Another tool I found helpful was these really long pliers here. It's just handy, so when you're getting the rail out of the way, you could use that to reach down and sort of manoeuvre the rail. That was handy, and it also really helped after I'd finished to put the rail back on with those. Otherwise it's just so hard to get your fingers in there, and I've got small hands and I really struggled. Another thing that was handy was this adjustable spanner, and I used that to undo these. So these are your injector rails. Undo those because it's going to give you more space to work, because this space here, it might look big on the screen, but if I put I can only just get my hand down there, and it's so awkward. The hardest part of the job is actually just finding the knack of getting the nuts off, getting the glow plugs out. Once I'd really wedged it in there, and then used a large screwdriver to push that over the end of the glow plug. I was like pushing the end of that spanner, the ring, right over that nut because it wasn't quite going over, and once I prized it a bit, I got it in there. Once you've done that, you're just sort of unwinding it then, and the job's not too hard. So you can see there the kind of angles you're working at. So I would say what you really want is a long 8mm spanner, and then you want a long 12mm. But like I say, the ratchet has saved me so much time. It just would have been nicer if it was a bit longer. Mine's only about 6 inches. You could probably do with it being more like 9 or 10. And they're fiddly. I mean, you've got to get that small nut onto the end of that glow plug like that. So what I did, I used the magnetic bit to hold it in place. Then I sort of shoved my finger over the end of it and just started winding it on, and I have lost 2 nuts. Some people say put tissue underneath, but I can't get my fingers all the way down there. So have a few spare nuts to go over that 8mm, you know, these little 8mm nuts. Get several of those spare. You may well need them. Anyway, obviously once you've done all of that, you've got everything on, you've put your railing. Put your rail on first. Don't put your nuts on and then realise. Make sure your rail goes on and then fit your 8mm nuts. Obviously then you need to put your injector lines back on. I haven't undone those two, but for these two, because they were kind of really in the way, I took those off. You just tighten them back up. I also disconnected the end. See the can you see a nipple? Where is he? There he is. Just on the side of that bolt. See that pointing up, that black thing? Where's it gone? Here it is. Here's the end that goes on. There's a hose that goes on the end of that, and I've pulled that off, and a bit of it broke. So just please be careful if you're going to do that. You don't want to end up stitching yourself up. I did kind of split it a bit, but I've cut it, and I think it's going to be okay now. I'll find out in a minute. Anyway, there we go. I've used the Bosch glow plugs. They didn't actually come with the replacement nuts. So when you get your originals off, you're going to need to reuse those nuts. There's my original glow plugs. So it's one of those jobs, if you're especially if you're running on veg oil, you need to make sure you've got decent glow plugs. So yeah, it's just taken me about 2.5 hours. Got there in the end. Gonna finish putting it all away now. Hope that helps. Cheers guys, bye.